You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people deal with just about every year, and you'll deal with it, I'll deal with it, is keeping them turkeys on your property gobbling longer. You know, it never fails that when you start season out, the first 2 or 3, 4 days, you hear a lot of gobbling usually. You know, and they're really hammering and you're really enjoying it. And then you get into that 6th, 7th, 8th day and on into season, it's just like they shut down. Now they shut down for a few reasons. It's not just, you know, you putting pressure on them, and I understand that. You know, they shut down for, you know, reasons of being henned up. You know, they're with hens the later in the season it gets, in that peak breeding, you know, part of the season, and they don't got to gobble. They already got what they want right off the roost. So I understand that does play an effect on turkeys, you know, going more quiet during the turkey season. But I'm going to tell you another reason why I think turkeys go quiet, and something you can prevent and actually keep your turkeys gobbling longer on your property is your access in and your access out if you're hunting small properties. Now we're on about 35 acres here. All right, it's not very big. But if I was going to hunt this piece of property, I would have one access in, one access out, and I'd have 4 to 5 spots on that property where I go sit. And I've already got picked out, and that's where I'm going to spend the majority of the day. You cannot run and gun on small pieces of property. And I know we see all of our favorite video guys, and we see all of our YouTubers and TV personalities, you know, getting on their golf carts and going up and, you know, roads, stopping and getting a box call and yelping, and then going on and doing the same thing and walking from point to point, trying to strike a turkey up in the day. Does that work? Yes, it does work on the right piece of property. But you know, I would say probably the majority of turkey hunters in the United States hunt private property. Now I know there's a lot of people who hunt public, and some people have to hunt public, and some people want to hunt public. And some people just got this attitude that if it ain't a public land turkey, it's not a real turkey hunt. You know, and if that's you, then I feel sorry for you. But the majority of turkey hunters in the United States hunt small pieces of private property. When I say small pieces, I'm going to probably say 100 acres and less. It's maybe a neighbor's property, or your family-owned property, or maybe your grandparents' property, or a friend of a friend who's got just a small bunch of acres, but they have turkeys on it. But you go in there and try to hunt them like a person who's been hunting a 700, 800, you know, acre piece of property. And that's why the gobblers go quiet after about day 3 or 4 or 5. You've been going in there and you've just been, you know, messing everything up, thinking that you're trying to strike a gobbler. Now let me tell you something. If you're going to hunt a small piece of property, and again, when I say small, I'm talking probably, you know, I'm going to say 100 acres and less, all right? 100 acres or less. And the smaller you get, the more this tactic has to go into play, and the more you have to be careful, the smaller you have. You have to hunt these turkeys a different way. You have to hunt them smart. You have to get in there, and you have to pretty much have 2 or 3 spots picked out and sit there. And if they're gobbling over here, or if they're gobbling over here, that's all right. You sit there and you let them come to you. Remember, you're not on a big piece of property. But access is so important. You know, one of the properties that I hunt a lot, and I hunt it every year, and I've hunted it for years, there's a very easy way to go into that property from the top. You know, I could basically just, you know, go park the truck up to the top and just walk straight out the ridge and be on the top in a matter of no time, and it would save my legs, and it would save me a lot of huffing and puffing. But years ago, I figured it out that, you know, if I go across that top, anything that's up on that top or on the other side in that field is probably going to see me long before I see it. And so in the last probably 20 years, or probably 20 years of hunting, you know, that property, I go up the hard way. I go up the steep way, even though it sucks and even though it wears me out the older I get. I go up the steep way, and I take my time, and I'm going up from the bottom and trying to get up to the top. Now, why do I do that? Because I'm concealed. I know the chances of a gobbler being on the bottom is probably very low, because I've never seen one down there. Now, I'm not saying there's probably not been one down there sometime or another, but I've never jumped one. I've never seen a turkey down that bottom. So I go up from the bottom and I climb up. When I get up on the top, I have like 3 to 4 trees on this property where I go sit and I blind call and I call, and I pretty much stay at one of them 3 or 4 places. And every single year, or just probably every other year, I've taken at least 1 to 2 turkeys off that property, and the property is not even 35 acres. Now think about that. I took 2 last year there. I took 2 the year before. You know, it's right close to my house. I've took 1, and then I've went somewhere else and killed 2 more. Tagged out. So I've killed turkeys on that hill because of my access going in. And so you have to be careful on these small pieces how you access it. And when I go back out, I don't go out that top. I go back down that hill. Of course, it's a lot easier coming down than it was up, but I go back down that hill and go the same way out. Access is so important. And when you're hunting any property, especially a small piece, listen, it's all about you not getting detected. And the more that you're not detected, the more that you're going to keep them turkeys gobbling throughout that entire season. Up on the hill where I was talking about at 35 acres, I can go up there just about any time of the year during the turkey season and have turkeys gobbling. I'm serious. You say, well, I bet there's no pressure. Well, there's pressure over on the neighbors way over there, but not over where I'm at. And they run them usually over here, or there's another guy that hunts across the road, they usually bring them over here. So on that little piece of property, many times they don't even know that nothing's in there except me, and they don't know that. And so access is very important. So if you want to keep your turkeys gobbling more throughout the season, just remember, on small pieces of property, have 1 access in, 1 access out, and don't be up walking around running a gun and trying to strike turkeys. Sit there longer, and listen, if they're gobbling on this side over here and they're only 150 yards from you, chances are he's going to come to you. Now, I'm not saying you can't move. If you have to get up and crawl a little bit, if you have to move just a little, you can do that, but you have to be careful. Remember, the smaller the property, the more you have to be careful if you want to keep them turkeys gobbling throughout the remainder of the season. If you go in there and try to do it just like everybody on TV does it or on YouTube does it, they're going to shut down on you, and they're going to go quiet, and they're going to be harder to hunt. If you'll do this right, you will keep them gobbling a lot longer during that season, and you'll have a lot more successful mornings. Something else I do when I hunt these types of properties like this I'm on right now is I'm setting in places where that I know that I can see a little bit further than what I normally would, because I don't want them turkeys catching me off guard because I'm not getting up and moving as much. So I'm trying to get up higher on a vantage point, and I'm trying to watch and trying to see a little bit further than maybe say I would, another piece where I can kind of run and gun and kind of get really tight to them and close to them, because and so on these small pieces, I'm setting up where I can maybe have a little bit more of a good visual, because I know I've already decided I'm not going to be moving near as much. I want to be comfortable. That's why you need a good turkey vest like the Tidewe turkey vest that's got a good seat that you can be comfortable, or take you a little stool or something where you can sit like a little turkey seat. Them old turkey seats you used to buy, just take you something and sit and get comfortable. When you're comfortable, you can sit for a long period of time, and this is what helps when you're hunting on small pieces, especially. On a large piece, there's that mental thing that gets in me that the grass is always greener on the other side. I'm going to go over here. 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 And I enjoy that type of hunting. Don't get me wrong. But you know what? I would say in my turkey hunting career, I would say that the majority of my biggest gobblers, and probably if I had to put it on a scale, probably the majority of turkeys I've killed, period, in my whole life, which has been a lot, have come from 100 acres and less, and many, many times have come off of 25, 30, 40 acres just like this one right here. But you have to learn to hunt them smart. When you do these things, you're going to have a lot more gobbling throughout your season, and you're not going to have so many problems with them tight-lipped gobblers. Something else I do on small pieces is I'm calling really soft the majority of the time. Now, I'm not saying you can't get loud. I'm not saying that you can't, bust the woods down with calling if that's what that turkey wants on that particular day, or if you got to get him off on the neighbors. If he's over on the neighbors usually and you have to get him over there and get him fired up. I'm not saying you can't get a little bit more fired up, but the majority of the time, because I'm setting longer in one spot, I'm in my mind, I'm being that hen that's just moved in there, that's doing them little sounds that we talk about. I'm just being that soft calling hen that's moved in there and scratching and just spending time in there. That's where you're going to really see your increase in gobblers coming into you. But a lot of times people hunt small pieces, and they're trying to shake the woods down with their calling, and you might get away with that on a big piece of property where you're walking from ridge to ridge, point to point, and you can get in your little four-wheeler or buggy or whatever, and you can go up the road a half mile or whatever the case, or 400 or 500 yards and stop again. But you can't do that on these types of properties. But these little type of properties that I'm on right now, these are hidden treasures, man. These are them little sanctuaries where gobblers come in and strut up in the day. They come in, they scratch, they feed around, and they hang here. And that's where you want to, focus, especially up in the midday, especially in that, say, 9 o'clock on up until 12, 1 o'clock. These little sanctuaries like this is where it really pays off. And when you don't put as much pressure on them, and you hunt it smart, and you hunt it right, and you call right, you're going to keep them turkeys gobbling for a lot longer periods of time. And that's going to really help you during the turkey season. So remember all these things, when you go out this year, and if you're hunting a small piece, keep that in your mind, and you're going to be a lot more successful, and you might be packing out your largest gobbler and, get him right here at 25, 30 acres. So hope that helps you, and hey, make sure to stay tuned to more videos. We're going to be uploading every week, so stay tuned to this channel. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, and make sure to check out all of our sponsors in the links below. We appreciate everybody, and I'm just glad that you joined me. And hey, make sure to also join my Patreon if you'd like to become a $5 a month member. And also, you can buy me a coffee if the videos have been a blessing to you and the videos have helped you a lot. You want to tip the channel, you can hit the link below in the description and buy me a coffee with any sort of amount of a tip that you want. It just helps us, and it really helps us this year due to a lot of crazy stuff that's going on with our YouTube channel and stuff. But we need your help, so anything you can do will be much appreciated. It goes right back in the Dell Outdoors. We appreciate everybody that watches. Make sure to stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next video.